And as you predicted, we do have standards. So that's going to be Raja on Golgari Rajas. And then on the right hand side, we have Theo on Esper mid range. Raja's going to be our 3 seed. Theo is our 4 seed. So we will have to see exactly how this plays out. Looks like Theo keeping 7. Raja going to go ahead and take a mulligan down to 6. But, as we mentioned, play draw is one of the more important things. Now, I guess my question for you, Dom, is what do you think is more important, play versus draw or keeping 7 versus 6?
I would say being on the play still. I think if you have a good draw on the play and you can always stay one step ahead of what the opponent's doing, then that card difference will either become irrelevant or you'll make it up through things like connecting with Gix, or you'll find other ways to make that up over time. Whereas I think just being on the draw, if you stumble or if they have a fast start, like you could just get run over before you get to unload your entire 7-card hand.
Yeah, and it looks like we have an update here from the booth. Looks like Raja vetoed Pioneer and Theo vetoed Modern. So that's how we ended up here. And just, again, just for future reference for the folks at home who may not have seen or, seen some other matches, the higher seed gets to veto first, veto one of the 3 formats, and then the lower seed vetoes second. And whatever format does not get vetoed, that is the format that we play. And we see a Mosswood Dread Knight here on turn 2 for Raja, and no 2-drop here for Theo. That could mean something like a Fairy Mastermind, though not necessarily doesn't have anything to play.
Yeah, there's always the scary thing playing against these Esper decks is they pass with 2 mana open, and if it was Raja's deck, he'd be like, great, he's missing a beat here, doesn't have a 2-drop. Against a deck like Esper, this could be any of 4 different things. So Raja going to put Theo to the test with Gix, and yeah, you see Theo has Fairy Mastermind, Make Disappear, going to use the Make Disappear on the Gix. Don't want that one to get a foothold and get out of control. And I think going to be in the same pattern here, maybe of either passing back with mana open, or yeah, we have a bat here, so going to take a peek at what's going on, and he'll see 2 removal spells, or 3 removal spells even, with a Virtue there, and a Shield Rid. So yeah.
Yeah, not great when you bat and see 3 removal spells followed by this, really crazy 4-drop in the form of Shield Rid. So, I mean, realistically, no matter what Theo takes, Raja is going to have an answer to that bat. So, in spots like this, it's a weird situation where you want to maybe take the weakest removal spell of the 3 to make them use one of the better removal spells. And Theo's like, you know what? No, I'm just going to take the Shield Rid, which kind of makes sense because if you take one of the removal spells and Raja draws a land, he can just go ahead and slam the Shield Rid. So you're kind of forcing Raja to take another turn off and use a removal spell on that bat to get that Shield Rid back and eventually cast it the following turn. So Raja, I mean, with a handful of 2-drops, definitely wants to pick up a land here. Was able to get a land is huge because you can just go Mosswood Dread Knight plus kill the bat. With Raja in the maybe tank a little bit. Doesn't look like we found a land. Maybe. So instead, fires off the Virtue first here. That's going to kill the bat, get the Shield Rid back. And yeah, it looks like Raja did miss a land drop here. So maybe Theo can deploy a Wedding Announcement, hold up 3 mana for something like a Tishana's Tidebinder. And it looks like we're going to go for Schooner and a pass. So I'll have to see. Raja still really wants that land 4. And one thing that we've brought up a couple of times throughout these standard rounds, Dom, is Subterranean Schooner is really, really good against Go for the Throat. Not as much against Bitter Triumph, but very, very good against Go for the Throat.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of removal that actually can kill that thing. So you almost have to kill everything that could crew it instead. But that's easier said than done, and anything that comes down can at least crew it on the way out. So hard to contain it if that's your plan here. So often you have to try and gum up the ground with stuff like Shield Rid or Glister or other things that it can't really attack into.
So Theo lining up 3 mana here. Looks like we're going for potentially a Preacher of the Schism. That can go ahead and crew the Subterranean Schooner, but as we both know, that Raja has a copy of Bitter Triumph in hand, so we can go ahead and just Bitter Triumph, maybe pay 3 life, and it looks like that is going to be the case. Raja recognizing how important that that Subterranean Schooner is to get off the battlefield, and we still know about that Go for the Throat in hand that can also take care of this Preacher.
And so Theo has a choice there of, there's a bunch of removal lined up. Do you play the Preacher now? Do you play the Rafine? How do you want to line up your next few threats against the next few removal spells? Is that one mana tax on killing Rafine with the ward going to matter too much? So lots to think about here. And Raja has a bat to see Rafine, Tiebinder, Fairy Mastermind, and Urtai. So a lot of good instant speed threats and interaction stapled onto those as well.
Yeah, but it looks like Raja still might be missing that fourth land drop. That is kind of the crucial turning point that we talked about the last time we saw Raja play. Because of the presence of how many two drops are in Raja's deck, you have Deep Cavern Bats, all the removal spells, Mosswood Dread Knights, and Raja really wants to be able to find that fourth land because if we're playing one spell a turn, I think on average Theo's spells are slightly better. You have stuff like Rafine and Preacher the Schism, and Raja's casting some Raja only has two drops right now. But the advantage that Raja can really find is when he finds that fourth land, can maybe back-to-back turns deploy two spells, and okay, there is that fourth land, and that's kind of the turning point here.
Yeah, and you think maybe if that was Rafine instead, then maybe that one mana tax could come up, but then maybe Rafine would have died to the Triumph initially, so the board would look a lot different. So a lot of weird kind of paths not taken in this game. And this is the nature of Standard, right? Especially these mid-range mirrors where every turn past the first one or two is so intricate that you often lose a game and feel like, well, I had the tools to win that somewhere. And you're kind of racking your brain over how you could have done it. So getting to watch these matches and then getting to go back and watch them again, very useful resource, I think, for people looking to master this format.
Absolutely. So we see Mosswood Dread Knight's going to be the play here for Raja, holding up some mana, looks like throwing it back to Theo. Theo's going to start with a Go for the Throat on the bat to unlock that Rafine. And that's going to go ahead and resolve. And we also have a Mastermind. So, we saw Raja double spell last turn. Theo's like, hey, anything you could do, I could do a little bit better.
And all of these cards are kind of traded off at this point. So Theo trying to see if there's a window for the Rafine. Raja does have the removal spell. So just a lonely Mastermind attacking instead here in the meantime.
We'll ship it back to Raja. And one other thing to note, that Virtue Persistence, pretty good removal spell. Sorcery speed, 2 mana, kill something, gain a little bit of life. But, I mean, that 7 mana enchantment is really threatening. Raja can just sort of trade a little bit of resources, eventually hit all the land drops, get to 7 mana. And even if Theo's able to answer everything, as we see a Shieldred hit the battlefield, that virtue of Persistence is eventually going to become a problem for Theo.
Yeah, this is a game where Raja was missing a crucial, fourth land drop for several turns, but it could easily drag on to the point where once Raja finds his seventh land, like that Virtue is kind of out of sight, out of mind for now, but that could be the game breaker in a few turns.
So it looks like we're going to upkeep an Urtai. That's going to take care of the Shieldred. Raja says, okay, that's fine. Got some additional stuff here, and then draws a card off of the Mastermind, right? Because Urtai makes Raja draw a card, and that gives Theo an extra card as well. So that's very heads up sequencing there for Theo, and Raja drawing 2 cards. I'll have to see if maybe land number 6 can also go towards that Restless Cottage if he so chooses. With Theo at 14, I mean that's the magic number, right? 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. So does have the ability to present a 2-turn clock. Theo does have a blocker, but I mean Urtai, you don't really want to trade with Mosswood Dread Knight.
No, always a losing proposition. And Raja, comfortable enough to make that attack here. We'll see if he has some kind of follow-up or if he's gonna have to keep playing reactively for now.
Lining up some mana here. Raja going to go. Got 2 mana lined up. Could be a removal spell, could be a bat. Looks like it is Virtue on Fairy Mastermind.
Virtue. And Liliana. Wow. So all of Theo's creatures gone. 2 more life back from the Virtue. And once we hit that 7th land, even if there's an answer for the first Virtue, the second one is sometimes what gets you. So Raja is at this point now where lands are decent draws, and also most of his spells are going to be good draws as well. But Bat gets to eat the other Dread Knight.
Yeah, Theo does get the double spell here. Bat plus either Gix or hold up to Shana's Tidebinder. Doesn't get to threaten the Liliana currently, and also has a land to discard to the Liliana if Raja so chooses to tick it up. So, I mean, things could be worse for Theo. It feels like the game is relatively close, but as you said, Raja doesn't really have bad draws at this point. Most spells are good, and lands get him closer to the virtue. So Theo's going to go ahead and deploy a Gix and see what Raja does for the turn. If Raja, like I said, draws a land, we could just play that, tick up the Liliana, pretty free discard there. You could consider going towards animating the cottage. Maybe you're interested if Raja, or excuse me, if Theo wants to double block the cottage. I think you'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, you don't want to let that bat start connecting, powered up by Gix. You're giving Theo an extra card each turn, but you see, okay, that life total is getting lower and lower. Maybe he can start taking these more aggressive lines. And yeah, a top deck removal spell going to unlock the Dread Knight from the bat. And yeah, suddenly Raj just built this incredibly wide board again.
Yeah, Raja had the decision to just play the Dread Knight or try to cast the Dread Whispers and try to find a land to cast the second Dread Knight, and rewarded very heavily. Does find that land drop and is getting even closer to those virtues, and already ahead on the battlefield, up on mana, has the 2 virtues in exile. We're even on creature lands, so we even have that. We're up on life. It just seems like Raja is basically ahead on every metric of this game, and I don't really know what a comeback looks like for Theo at this point. The Gixin play is a decent start, but that gets checked by the Dread Knights, and it seems like it's going to be really tough for Theo to get out of this.
Yeah, Preacher of the Schism is a really nice blocker against these 3/2s, but the Liliana can eat one thing, which I assume will have to be the Gix, and then there's still the Cottage in reserve that can fire up as well. So Roger can kind of happily attack into that. Or again, if he just draws a land, he can Dante Liliana just cast Virtue Persistence, and now Theo is far behind on board, and also Roger just is going to win the long game too.
Yes, we do go for the Preacher. As you mentioned, that is going to go ahead and lock down those Dread Knights from attacking, but I mean, Rasha's not really in a position where he needs to attack. If we draw a land, we can just go ahead and slam that Virtue. And if we take a look at Theo's deck list, there are 2 copies of Destroy Evil, but if one is not drawn immediately, that Virtue is going to basically end the game on the spot. Oh well, we don't
Yeah,
even probably
turns
don't
out
even need it.
a great combo with the first Liliana is just the second Liliana, and yeah, we're going to see Raja take game 1 here, and you saw one of the dynamics that you often see in these matchups where once you fall behind, a lot of your cards get so much worse. So the Gix, right, the Tidebinder from Theo, which never found a good target. Raja was just one step ahead the whole time. Had some good draws in the mid game to kind of break open these bat sequences, and yeah, Raja just pressed his lead at every point. But Theo on the play is going to be trying to flip that back on Raja, read the same script back to him, and we'll take a quick look at the sideboards here, see what tools each player has to do that with.
Yeah, so for Theo, we got a Loran of the third path, a couple of Tashana's Tidebinders, a Shieldred, 2 Aclizots, a Cutdown, an Anoint with Affliction, 2 Destroy Evils, 2 Disdainful Strokes, a Negate, and 2 Parasitic Grasps. My guess is in this sort of mid-range battle, you want to go towards the Shieldred, maybe the Aclizots. Past that, Destroy Evil is something that can kill the Virtue, but I mean, there's, Preacher of the Schism as well, and Shieldred, so maybe Theo wants to go towards those. Counter spells, maybe, not sure how good those are, but what are we thinking here from Theo's side?
Yeah, this is where Acrosots really shines. Those are definitely coming in. And then some mix and removal. So I think Anoint with Affliction is really nice here too, just exiling the Dread Knights permanently, and also cleaning up a bunch of the scary 3-drops. Shieldred, it just adds another Haymaker, as you mentioned. And then I think can shave some of the weak removal. Like I don't know how good Cutdown's going to be here. For example, the Tiebinders maybe on the play get better than on the draw. But I think on the play, Theo's going to be looking to really be proactive and just get on board, have enough remove to spot any blockers out the way, and then also have some late game power with these Aclazotses and stuff like that.
All that makes sense to me. So that was Theo's Decklist. Let's see if we can get Raja's pulled up on the screen for you here. We saw this a couple of rounds prior, but we have two Outland Liberators, a Nightclubber, a couple of Tranquil Frillbacks, and Acklazotz of his own, some more Liliana of the Veils, a cut down, a couple of Duresses, two Pilfers, and a Gix's Command. From what I'm looking at, I would guess the Acklazotzes, the Lilianas, and the Gix's Command, maybe some of the discard spells. What do you think, Dom?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. His own Acklazotz, certainly the cut down. Liliana's a card which, again, so much worse on the draw. I don't know if the ones in the deck currently will stay on the draw, whereas on the play, maybe he wants even more of those. Gix's Command, as you said. And then we've seen Roger bring in Outland Liberator against other Esper decks, but those were heavier on stuff like Winning Announcement, Virtue of Loyalty, and so on. Theo only has a Schooner, and at that point, I think the card isn't really worth it. So more minimal sideboarding here, probably from Roger, just looking to do more of the same.
Yeah, and as we mentioned previously, these are elimination matches. So the loser of this will go ahead and is currently out of the tournament. So we have Raja defending champion. We'll have to see if Raja can continue his run and keep up defending the title. But our backup match is which we will have in after this match concludes is going to be Dykeman against Fletcher Johnson. So that is going to be the other elimination match that we're going to be watching here in just a moment. I don't think we have an update on what format they're playing. Maybe we can get you that in just a moment. But yeah, that's another absolutely amazing match. I mean, at this point, Dom, at this point in the tournament, there's really, every single match is going to be an absolute heater, and very, very excited to see who takes it down this weekend.
Yeah, we've seen Fletcher really earn his keep here so far on camera today. We haven't actually seen Stephen Dykeman on camera so far, but yesterday he started off 7-0, and that almost doesn't feel surprising at this point. Like he's become known for these very dominant performances in tournaments, but with a field like this, the ultimate end of year showdown, starting off 7-0 in that field is impressive in its own right, and looking to really run up the score here today. With the format of this tournament, of course, starting 7-0 is not as much better as it normally would be than, crawling into day 2 at 4-3. Both players going to have a very good chance of taking home everything on offer at the end of the day. But I think Dykeman would like to be able to say, he's the champion at the end of the year, and he did it in ridiculously dominant fashion as well.
Absolutely. And we just got a little update from production. It looks like the Dykeman and Fletcher Johnson match has picked Modern. So I know we haven't gotten to see any Modern today, but for your Modern fans at home, we will potentially be getting to see a little bit of that on the backup. And just for a little preview, that's going to be Fletcher on Living End versus Stephen Dykeman on Murktide. So that is going to a little bit of a preview for our backup match. But as we continue into this tournament, we have players drawing our opening 7-card hands. And Theo going to be on the play because we did lose game number 1. I believe both players have kept 7. Maybe Theo's kept and Raj is deciding. It looks like both players are going to keep 7. And Theo has the unequivocally best art for Underground Sea. I'm not taking any additional. I won't accept any other answers. So there you go.
A lot of us to choose between at this point, as there are for basically every single card in Standard. So putting us to the test, but I think we've done a decent job here of keeping on top of those many different variants thus far.
Also, I think I realized I might have said Underground Sea. That one's not in Theo's deck. I meant Underground River. That might have been my apologies. But in any case, if I did say that, there we go.
Yes, you did fail that first test.
It's a white bordered blue-black dual land. I mean, it's all the same. So we have a Fairy Mastermind into Raffine Curve. That's kind of nice here for Theo. And we'll have to see if Raja has the cut down. That's kind of the big test here. And it looks like we do. So Raja, able to pass test number 1, able to answer the Raffine. We'll have to see if Raja has a 3-drop of his own, looking for something like a Preacher of the Schism, maybe a Gix, maybe a Glissa. And Rasa's Shake of the Head. I wonder if there's no third land here, Dom.
Yeah, might be a repeat of game 1. Although that ended with Raja fixing that flood issue and then having enough action, as often happens when you're mana screwed, to get back in it. So I think Theo expected something to die there. If Raja's passing without a 2-drop play on the draw and he kept 7, you got to think there's removal of some kind in there, but going to make him have it. And he does have the bat here. So if Theo doesn't have a good follow-up, it might be hard to attack with the Mastermind into the bat. And if Theo's relying on some specific card to keep coming out, then the bat could get in the way there. As it turns out, he's just got more 2-drops. Make disappear. It looks like his own bat and another Fairy Mastermind.
Yeah, really, no matter what Raja takes out of this hand, Theo can very easily double spell next turn. Theo's kind of has the perfect hand against the bat. I mean, you could take the counter spell, but then bat plus Fairy Mastermind. If you take the bat, counter spell, hold up Fairy Mastermind and hold up counter spell. So really, no real way to pick this hand apart for Raja. If he's trying to protect something, maybe a removal spell, he could take the bat just because he doesn't want Theo to have the information about his hand. But not really a great decision. Looks like he's going to go for taking the additional threat here in the form of Mastermind. Oh, we're thinking about it. We're not 100% positive. But yeah, like you said, really no easy decision here for Raja. Okay, I take back everything I said about the misland drop. Looks like we did find a Deathcap Glade for land number 3. So Theo's going to go ahead and untap here, see what we can find. We know about the counterspell and the bat of Theo. So if maybe Raja has something like a bat of his own that can go ahead and answer Theo's bat, we'll have to see. Yep, so there is the cut down. So nothing's going to get selected. Not worded like the Tide Hollow Scholars of yesteryear, where if you killed that thing on the stack, something bad would happen. But yeah, just going to get some information here for Theo.
Yeah, the bat, on the whole, very big upgrade to Mesmeric Fiend and a much cleaner design. This is the one downside, is that no weird timing tricks like that, where you could guarantee to take that removal.
Yeah, and Raja's hand is just kind of all bangers, right? We saw the the Shieldred, the couple of lands that go for the throw to answer the Mastermind. So and Raja does know the Make Disappear is face up, so not going to want to run the Shieldred into that Make Disappear, but has a pretty good turn where we could just go land, maybe say play a Dread Knight or a Dread Whispers, pay for that Make Disappear, and make sure Theo can't get a ton of value out of that Make Disappear.
Yeah, I wonder at this point, given the Mastermind there, maybe a second one, if just casting Dread Knight Raja might not even go for the full value from it. Just cast a 3/2, get it out there, and don't kind of give the opponent a card back at the same time and waste your mana in the process.
I don't know though, Dom. I've watched a lot of Raja, over my years commentating on the NRG series, and I've never seen this brand turned down at card draws. So even if he's giving Theo an extra card, he still might do it. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's hard to resist sometimes.
We're just gonna throw it back to Theo. Theo's gonna pick up a card, play land number 5. Notably, no creature lands here for Theo. Theo does not have one of the Restless Anchorages. We only got 2 copies in the deck list, but no copies here. So we're going to... Okay, so the plan was we're going to go for the Throat the Mastermind and then go for the Mosswood Dread Knight.
And yeah, not expose himself to the Make Disappear that he knows about at any point just yet. And yeah, there we go. So down to 14.
And Dom, there's not just one Make Disappear. There's actually a second copy in Theo's hand. So,
I mean, that Quench has a downside, as it turns out. There's a reason that people were not excited to play that thing. But is this Aclazotz?
I thought there was a third Disappear for a second, but yeah, it looks like Theo did pick up a copy of Aclazotz, and that second Make Disappear is really backbreaking for Theo, because like if Raja didn't know about the first one, he might have played into it, but now he knows about the first one. The second one's even worse. But yeah, we can slam those Aclazotz here.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And that thing is going to get killed once, but it's going to come back again real fast here. The awkward thing for Theo is the condition for flipping it back is if a player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, and those 2 Make Disappears just sinking up the joint even further here. And yeah, Raja's gonna see that good news for himself. So as long as he can keep his own hand at a reasonable size, and now that Theo's tapped out, he can just cast both of his cards. Yeah, this is rough.
Yeah. Oh man, the Shieldred too, especially like, and Theo really did think about that, the going shields down and playing the Acklazotz, but just felt like he was these make disappears because Raja knew about the first one. Raja's not going to play into the first one, so maybe thought he wasn't going to get any sort of value. And yeah, this is just things are going from bad to worse here for Theo. Just really really rough. Not being able to convert these make disappears, and I think if Raja maybe didn't know about the first one, maybe we have a bit of a different game. But I mean, good chance that maybe Raja still plays into it, and that is going to do it. Raja Sulaiman taking this match down 2-0 over Theo Jung, and that means that Raja is going to be advancing. And for all you Theo fans out there, Theo is going to be eliminated from our tournament. So condolences to Theo, congratulations to Raja. But yeah, that matchup was pretty interesting. How'd you think that matchup played out, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, a tough way to go for Theo. I know he liked his deck and presumably liked this matchup, but he has been one of the most consistent performers on our series here over the past year. Uh, you're going to see him in Chicagoland, and then at the Pro Tour the following week. He won his first paper Pro Tour invite there already. So doing great across the board. Going to try and keep that consistency going in 2024. Good run here in this tournament, but sadly came to an end at the hand of our defending champion, who is still like to run it back at this point. That's a nice storyline to follow.
Absolutely. And speaking of defending champion, we are getting the interview set up here in just a moment. Yeah, Raja Sulaiman still in the hunt to be able to go back to back, and what an amazing accomplishment that would be. So can get congratulations to Raja still being able to fight alongside. Still being able to fight in this tournament rather. And yeah, I mean, just an incredible performance, very very heads up plays. Like again, he knew about that make disappear for the longest time, was able to play around the first one. And, unfortunately for Theo, there ended up being a second one in Theo's hands. So that was kind of rough. But yeah, like that game one, I kind of go back to that and think about Raja missing a couple of land drops, but it almost felt like as soon as that fourth land drop was hit in that game one, everything just kind of turned around, was able to double spell that turn, double spell the next turn, and just kind of, use that advantage and keep snowballing from there.
Look, Roger's a patient guy, and usually he's the one sitting there with a handful of instants in his hand. Like he knows how to play with and against counters from both sides. So yeah, perfectly happy to just play the waiting game there. He knew that he wasn't under pressure on the board. That's what happens when your opponent's stuck with a bunch of mages appears in hand. And yeah, he waited it out, picked his moment, and yeah, able to just put on a clinic there.
All right. So yeah, like I said, it looks like we're still waiting on Raja here. As far as the we could talk a little bit about maybe the backup match while we're waiting on this. But we have it was Fletcher Johnson against Steven Dykeman, that's living in against Murktide. I mean, as far as that matchup goes, Dom, who do you typically like in that matchup?
Yeah, that's a classic modern matchup at this point. I think that Living End is ahead in game one. There just aren't that many cards that matter from the Murktide side. But post board, if Murktide is prepared, if they care enough about the Cascade decks, which in a field full of rhinos that you're going to catch some splash damage there potentially, then once those lightning bolts and unholy heats turn into more flusterstorms or whatever the hate of choice is, that's when it gets really tricky. So I think if you ask most Murktide players who care about the matchup, then they like it.
Perfect.
But if you're playing Living End at this point, you have a plan for that matchup in mind. So hopefully Fletcher has come prepared
All right. Well, with that, we do have
for that.
Raja in the booth here for our winners interview. So, first and foremost, congratulations to our defending champion. Raja, how does it feel to be able to still be in the hunt to get that back to back?
Feels great. Yeah, I'm excited for to play top four here. It's been a fun tournament, a lot of good competitors, and yeah, I'm pumped.
So, as far as your potential matchups, I don't
Yeah,
know,
I think I'm playing against Hobbs again, who's been destroying me
yeah.
all
I mean,
tournament long. He, I
okay,
really don't
okay.
like. Yeah, I don't like two of my matchups. Pioneer and Modern. I do like my standard matchup against him, but so I think I'll have to win standard first, and then break serve on one of those two other matchups. So we'll see.
We've got a nice little revenge storyline brewing. It looks
Yeah,
like,
there you
and
go.
this
That's
is
how you go.
this is how it always works, Roger. Like you can't just crush everyone in your path. You've got to take some losses along the way, and
Right.
then the hero, the last act of the story, they get their revenge and move on. So
Exactly. Builds
I don't know. We've got
characters.
some interesting magic.
Nice narrative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No,
Exactly.
there's play to all the matchups. It's not like it's like super one-sided. I just don't like any of them. I hate my scam matchup, and then yeah, Pioneer is interesting, but I've been losing to Rakdos a lot this weekend, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like that specific matchup that we just saw against Theo, we kind of thought the matchup was pretty close, and I know you've been playing a lot of. It feels like there's been a lot more standard on camera we've seen today, at least. So as far as that matchup is concerned, did you like the matchup going in for Theo, and was that kind of the matchup that you preferred?
Yeah, so all I did was really test standard leading up to this event, just because I hadn't played standard in a really long time, hasn't been relevant for a few years now, and I'm relatively comfortable with the other two formats just because we play it more often, given the support, and so I played a lot of the matchup of Golgari versus Esper, and I really liked it. I knew exactly how I wanted to board against the wedding announcement versions versus the non-wedding announcement versions, and as I was tuning my deck for this event, I just realized that like I just wanted more and more removal spells. I just kept finding myself adding more and more, and then I think you saw game one. I just kept peeling removal spell to removal spell, and that's kind of how you keep up with these decks. And then you just kind of find opportunities to grind out some cards with like Dread Knights and Planeswalkers and stuff like that.
Absolutely, Dom. I don't know if you have any other questions for Raja here.
Yeah, I mean, if you make it through Hobbs, your nemesis in this tournament, how do you like your matchups more broadly? So, we've seen you put on clinics with Roger decks in all of these various formats, but you like your standard preparation. You've got a lot more reps in with Pioneer and Modern at this point. How is the rest of the field and the rest of the metagame kind of shaping out for you?
I love my standard deck into basically anybody. I put a lot of work into it, and I think I understand all the matchups pretty well. So I think that's the one format that's going to favor me the most, kind of ironically, for this event. I think probably because some of the other players might not have played as much standard leading up to this event. Um, and I think I picked a really good deck. I'm not so confident in Modern. I kind of defaulted to Blue White, but I think Blue White's been obsolete for a while now. It's definitely not as well positioned as it was this time last year. So there's matchups like Scam that I don't care for. I played against I think it was a feature match yesterday against Dan where he was basically playing the same deck but with like run and sixes and less removal, which kind of favored him. But I did main deck Chalice for this event, expecting a lot of Rhinos, and there's a lot of Rhinos and Murktide. So if I do get to play against Rhinos again, I think that'll be a good thing for me. And then Pioneer, people really gun for Blue White for this event. Just all the talk. I'm friends with a lot of the competitors. They were just all basically pre-boarding in certain ways against Blue White, and rightfully so because ended up being 6 players on it. So it does not feel as well positioned, especially because there aren't decks like Amalia to really pick on. But I think the deck is so good that I think it can kind of fight through a lot of that hate. So I would say if I had to rank the decks or the formats of my preference, I'd say Standard first, then Pioneer, and then Modern. And yeah, that's probably where I'm at with that.
Awesome. Well, again, Raja, thank you very much for taking the time. Congratulations on advancing to the top four, and best of luck in the rest. Hopefully, you can continue this run and maybe go back to back.
Thanks, guys. Go Lions.